Hey lovelies, you're welcome back to Reviews and Recaps. Let's talk about Love and Marriage Detroit, honey. So the episode started with the arguments between Anthony and Brandon. So Anthony was basically in Brandon's face and he's like, he's willing to move forward. I'm like, what the heck are you talking about, bro? You're in this man's face. You are constantly doing something underhand when it comes to Brandon. Like, you've done so many things that it's like all I'm seeing is your snaky behavior, but still calling this man a snake. So then Brandon was like, he'll think about it, bro. I'm like, bro, why not just tell him and come out and be assertive and say, you're not feeling him. The way he keeps on treating you is not right. Instead, you're telling us in the confessionals. We don't want to hear that ish. You tell him. You're a grown-ass man. Speak up for yourself. Instead, Brandon is like, his top priority is making sure the showcase is a success because his name is on it. I'm like, do you know what? Fair enough. I understand that. But at the same time, that does not mean that you should take ish from Anthony. You need to resolve things properly. And if you guys watch the preview for the next episode, you will see exactly what happened and exactly what Anthony did. So with people like Anthony, you need to pin them down. And I don't mean literally, guys. I just mean that when you're having a conversation with them, don't let them divert the focus and create a lot of bluster, right? You need to focus on the issue at hand and resolve it clearly. Don't move on until there is a resolve. Don't let them try to convince you something else is an issue or they don't have an issue. Speak about the issue at hand. Make sure you have a resolve before you move on to the next thing. Brandon will learn that at his next showcase, honey, because Anthony will show him Pepe. But anyways, we move. So next scene, it was Christina and Brandon. They were talking and Brandon was asking her about how it went. So she was basically saying that she decided to sit next to LaToya on the boat, as she wanted LaToya to understand that she doesn't have an issue with her and she just wanted to have the opportunity to sit next to her and feel her out and stuff like that. And so then Brandon started talking about how his talk with Anthony went and how it didn't go well. And he was trying to ask his wife whether or not he was tripping because he feels like he has a target, or Anthony has a target on his back, right? And he brought up the whole point about bringing Lyrique and how he was adamant about bringing Lyrique to the showcase. So you're telling your wife again, and of course, yes, you will tell your wife. But my thing is speak up for yourself a lot more, Brandon. I just feel like a lot of your issues would be resolved if you spoke up for yourself. And as someone who started off their life being very non-confrontational, I understand it's not easy to confront people about things, but at some point you have to just put on your big boy panties and just do what you need to do. That's just the reality. So moving on to the final day. So there's the final dinner, which was the last day of the trip. And so Christina decided to do something called a situational box or something. I've never heard of that before. But basically, she'll pass everyone an index card. Everyone will write a situation anonymously, put it in the box, and then someone will pick out something, read out the question, and then they can answer it. Why do I feel like it seems very similar to something that I've seen on one of Carlos's shows? Maybe I'm making it up. Let me know if you guys can remember anything that you guys have seen it on. I couldn't remember the name, but I feel like that's something I've seen on one of the shows. I could be wrong. If I'm not wrong, let me know in the comment section below. If I'm wrong too, you can tell me, so let me know as well. But one of the questions was that how do husbands want their wives to initiate sex? And I was like, okay. What was interesting was Brandon literally almost spat his drink out. I'm like, dude, you are grown-ass people. You guys can talk about sex. Why are you trying to spit out your drink? What's going on here? So Bravo was like, pull it out and just do the fellatio. I was like, okay. He's straight to the point, honey. There's no need for you to go around the corner. I don't know if you've watched this. It's this random meme online. And it says, talk to me direct. So they go through the corners. Exactly. That's what it's given. It's talk to me directly, honey. Don't be going through the corners. it actually felt like they had such a nice dinner. I was like, okay, no drama. I like that. Well, I think I spoke too soon. So the ladies decided to go to the fire pit, and then the men retired for bed. And so Christina basically addressed the whole issue with Latoya, and I appreciated how she did it. She was literally like, you always make me out to be the bad guy when situations happen. Did I do something to offend you? And then Latoya said that, she felt that sometimes she felt some type of way about the fact that Christina wasn't reaching out to Colby when she needed a sister. I'm like, okay, yet again, you're telling us what your issue is with this woman that has not done anything directly to you. So because of how you feel, your perception of how she treated Colby, now you have an issue with her. So it's like, we're grown people. What does that have to do with you directly? Instead of you to try to play peacemaker and try to bring us back together, instead, you want to pick sides and then continue to push this whole conflict. It doesn't make any sense. So basically, and I completely agree. So Christina was saying in her confessionals that the best thing she could have done is address things, right? In the moment. If she had an issue, address it in the moment. And they both agreed that, they were all cool and whatnot. But what was interesting was that Latoya was saying in her confessionals that, we can't be that if you're not being who you are. As in, they can't be cool if she's not being who she is. I'm like, what are you talking about? Why didn't you bring this up when you were talking to this woman? If you felt like she wasn't being herself, why didn't you bring it up to her? Instead, you're saying in the confessionals, oh, you're being a confessional gangster, talking about, we can't be cool if you're not being who you are. What are you talking about? You are the phony one. She is being herself. You are the one who needs to be herself and stop being phony. Except phony is who you are, then that's really a problem. Like, you need to take your own advice, honey, and stop being phony. Moving on to the next scene now, Anthony met up with Bravo, and Bravo was talking about how, in advance of the men's movement, he's reached out to a couple of people, and that Merceau Scott, who we know from Love and Marriage Huntsville, has a black cigar lounge, is one of the really successful people that is doing it, and is pretty much from Detroit, and that Merceau put Huntsville on the map. I'm like, bruh, no, he didn't, but okay. So I'm like, bravo, boy, are you sure? Did you fact check everything you have said? But anyways, so Merceau basically then walked in on the conversation. And so they started talking about like the men's movement. And Merceau basically said that black men are victims of propaganda. And he was keen on coming to support with the men's movement. So I was like, okay, still don't know what the men's movement is about. Whatever, let's just get it done, okay? Over on the other side, then Brandon came over. It was Brandon's birthday. Brandon came over to see his mom for his birthday, like he always does. She bakes him a cake. And then they start talking now. And the mom was like, oh, you've never doubted I love you, right? And then Brandon is like, I would love to hear you say it. So then the mom starts talking about, she used to say it to him when he was younger. But then when he started growing older, she didn't think it was appropriate. I'm like, it's not appropriate to say to your son that you love him. Like, I'm not following. What are you talking about? It is your son is never too old to know that you love him. Is never too old for you to say, I love you. Seriously? So then he starts saying to her that, he wants them to work on their relationship and he thinks that they should have therapy and that he wants her to join, essentially. So she's like to him, like, do you feel like you have trauma? And he's like, he has a severe lack of emotion, which comes through in his relationship with his wife and everything. So yes, there must be something there. And I'm like, yes, sir, there has to be something there. The way you talk to your wife sometimes, the way you treat your wife sometimes, the way you deal with conflicts, there are a lot of things there that needs to be unpacked. And so the parts that I didn't like was Brandon was trying to express how he was struggling and how hard it was for him as a mixed kid to grow up in the hood, right? And she was like, well, it was really hard for her as a white person in a hood. And I'm like, Mom, this is not the time for you to be comparing notes to see who has the most trauma, honey. Your son is saying to you what has happened to him. Let him speak. Let him speak about his experiences. And then after he speaks about his experiences, you validate or speak on that and respond to that before you add your own 2 cents. It's common sense, right? You're saying, oh, it was hard for you, but you chose to marry a black man, knowing fully well you would be living in the hood, right? Because you can't say you probably met him in that vicinity or you knew where he was from when you were dating him and then you married him. You made that choice. He did not choose that. He was a child. So let the man speak. And it was interesting. She wasn't very keen on getting or going to therapy, right? And then she also said in her confessional that she's okay with the way things are. I'm like, how are you okay with barely having a relationship with your son? That's insane. I honestly feel like Mom is either just very cold because of how she grew up, or she resents him for the things that she has endured. Because I don't understand. This is your son wanting a relationship with you. And you're adamant about counseling. You're telling him you're happy with the way things are. That is mind-blowing. There was no affection from that end. I did not like that at all. So finally, it was the day of the men's movement. And I was looking around trying to find the guys. The guys did not show up, honey. Well, they eventually showed up in the end, but it was like still not a lot of people. I was like, they did not need that big of a space. They really should have like stuck to like a really small space because that's just not it. So after the speech about the man's movement and whatnot, I'm just like, still don't know what it means, but whatever. After the speech, the long ass speeches, right? Anthony is like, oh, they should go outside for a march. And I'm looking at these people. They had nothing, no clear direction. Where were they marching to? What were they doing? It just looks completely disorganized. Like it was just like a bunch of black people walking in one direction. I bet people were thinking like, where are these people going? Like, why? Can't you do things properly? How hard could it be to just get someone holding like signposts? You guys could even use cardboards, right? Write a few things, hold it. Just little mini posters, right? It wouldn't cost literally a few cents. Buy that. Buy this here, buy that. Write on freaking cardboards. Like, why couldn't you just do that? The march should have been cancelled if you guys didn't have anything to visually identify who you guys were. Because it just feels like a bunch of black people walking. That's it. So when I say I completely agree with what Brandon was saying about not understanding what the men's movement is about, but also like feeling like there needs to be like some signs, like what is the point of walking? Where are we walking to? Like Brandon actually made me laugh. I was just like, God. And then Bravo basically said he's seen more organization at his daughter's recital. I thought that was hilarious. I was like, all right, come on, Bravo, with the jokes. Like, okay, not mad at it at all. And then Brandon decided to bring it up that he doesn't understand what the men's movement is. I'm like, Brandon, now is not the time, sir. This is the problem with Brandon. Brandon chooses the wrong time to be petty. This is where you should have kept it in your confessionals, honey. There was no need for you to come and then say you don't know what that means right there and then, right? There was no need for that, okay? You should have let that pass and then maybe at a later point say, guy, I still no understand though. Waiting this man movements be safe. Like, tell me, like, what's going on, right? So he's like, what exactly are we doing? What I didn't like was Colby then interrupted to say, they did read the mission statement. I understand what the movement is about. And I'm like, Colby, mind your business. You do not like Brandon because you're upset Brandon called you a Kobe cat, right? So every opportunity to get Brandon, you're like, ooh, let's go for Brandon, right? But when Brandon comes for you now, you finna be crying. So don't do that. Leave this man alone. It's not your business. He was not talking to you. So finally, the next scene, Brandon's mom came over to the house for therapy. And so what was interesting was when his mom walked in, no one hugged her. Not Christine, not Brandon. Now, of course, it could be that production edited it or whatnot. But from what I saw, no one hugged her. And I was just like, wow, the coldness can be felt through the screens. Did you see when the therapist came and Brandon was so jolly? Brandon was hugging the therapist, but didn't hug his mom. I'm like, they clearly do not have a good relationship. There's no way my mother is going to come over to my house and I'm not going to hug her and then I'm going to hug a random. Well, therapist is not random, but you know what I mean, right? Like, I was just a bit like, What I think is, I suspect they have such a high and by relationship, but it seems that the mom does not give a F. She really doesn't care. So Brandon starts expressing that he feels like they have a high and by relationship, and he feels like his mom loves him and whatnot, but the love and support was never verbalized. So Brandon's mom was basically saying that, she is okay with how things are. And Brandon was really upset, bless him. Like, this woman does not want to have a relationship with Brandon. It's sad to say, but she doesn't. She is content with the high and by relationship. She's content with seeing him on his birthday, and that's enough for her. That is all she wants. She is very emotionally detached. Like, I don't know why, but she really is. And she then brought up the fact that Christina talks about talking to her mom every day, but that's not going to happen with her and Brandon. I'm like, why not? Why are you acting like that is the worst thing that could happen, that your son wants to speak to you every day? Like, most parents, when they get older, they want more of you. They want you to call them all the time, and almost like they can get upset when you don't call them regularly. But here, it seems like it's the other way around. And like, Brandon's mom does not want to be bothered with him. That is so sad. Like, I honestly feel like we get some understanding into why Brandon is who he is and why he grew up the way he grew up and why he acts the way he does. Is very, very sad. I think his mom needs to do better, in my opinion. This is all in my opinion, guys. Please give this video a thumbs up and let me know in the comment section what you guys thought of this episode. I actually felt like there wasn't much that happened in this episode, to be completely honest with you guys. It was sad to see how Brandon was being treated, I'll be honest with that. But I was glad they showed that, because that gave us some clarity as to who Brandon is and why Brandon is the way he is, so we can give him a little bit more grace. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Tap that bell for notifications. If there's anything you want to see on the channel, please let me know in the comment section below so I can create more content along those lines for you guys. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, and I will speak to you guys later. Bye.